is hosted by Tony Gapperstone. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey everybody, it's showtime, episode 225 coming at you. This is Tony Gapperstone. I'm an actor. I'm a writer and director based in the San Francisco Bay Area, Redwood City specifically. I'm a Caucasian guy with brown hair, wearing my glasses and a black shirt in our BraveMaker studio, which is a lot of faux green and pink letters and a striped wall. And I have been doing this every week for a few years where I get to talk to different creators and makers, people in the film and entertainment industry. And we have a returning guest today who is a very special part of the entertainment industry because he helps people sound better. He's an accent coach. So when you book a role, you're on a show, you're from California, but you got to play someone from the East Coast or someone who lives in Australia or New Zealand or London. He gets to do all that kind of fun stuff, but it's been growing. His footprint in the world and social media and creativity has grown. So we're excited to welcome back for the second time, Jack Wallace. Hi, Jack.
Hello. Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be here on this podcast. And have you updated your intro music and your little
bit of updates, a little new thing from Minnow Mountain, our partners in Austin, Texas, who work with Richard Linklater. They did our animated bumper, which is super cool, so we're really glad to have that. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, and a British voice introducing you as well.
Yeah, you like that?
Happy to see. Yeah.
That's right, a real British voice as well. Well, Jack, we like to also do a descriptive introduction so that we can be inclusive to all audiences. So go for it. You're up.
Absolutely. So I am here in Los Angeles. I am wearing a kind of beige woven woolen jumper that's made of alpaca fur. I have red hair and a red beard, and behind me are some paintings and faux fig tree.
Yeah, it's all about the faux fakes, right? It adds to the ambiance. And you're wearing a jumper. This is a like a shirt. You call this a jumper?
Well, it's really more of a hoodie because it has a hood. But yes, whatever would be a sweater in America would be a jumper in England.
Okay, in my mind, I think of overalls as a jumper. So
yeah, whereas we would think of a jumpsuit rather than jumper.
There you go. All right, you just
already into dialect.
All right, you're coaching me.
I love it. Yeah.
So for those who have not connected with you in the past, you have a really exciting life. You do a lot of work with actors and entertainers, we talked offline about kind of since the strike, kind of what's been happening. But let's jump into your work, and people can connect with you and work with you online and virtually anywhere, which is kind of cool. So yeah, just give us the Accent Coach Jack Wallace pitch when and how people get you and why.
Yeah, so I can be brought onto projects for a number of reasons, but the two main reasons why I end up on projects, the majority of my work is actors get an audition. It says, this is due tomorrow, and you have to have this accent that is not your own accent. Or it might even say authentic accents only. And I see a lot of people that come to that. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to live with that accent every day. It just means that you have to conceivably do it well without it interfering with the way that you act, to make it authentic, in quotes. So that is one area where I see people. And then the other is actually on set, on projects, helping them when they've booked a role get to the place where they need to be so that they don't have to worry about listening to themselves talk and act at the same time. Mm-hmm. I can listen to them while they focus on the acting, and then if there's any tweaks, I'd go in and say, hey, remember this.
Did I see you post something? There was there was an episode of a TV show where they had a coach. Maybe I'm making this up, but I feel like or at least I thought about you, where the show depicted having a coach on set. Did you post something about that, or am I just thinking about you? You're frowning, so maybe
okay. Continue. And
okay, so I was thinking about this. I think I saw it in a show. I want to say it was The Boys, and now I'm discrediting myself in my own brain. But I was wondering about your clients. Obviously, actors are going to contact you, but I also think as a filmmaker director myself, I know I want my actors to get support. So I'm imagining you got maybe, what's the ratio of production hiring you, actors hiring you for their own? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's completely all over the map. I've generally been hired through production rather than an actor,
Okay.
because in order for an actor to be able to bring you on and get production to pay for it, they have to have quite a bit of pull in that
Mm.
project. But most of the things, it's been a producer has suddenly heard about an actor coach, be like, oh yeah, we're doing that in this episode. Maybe we should find someone. And that actually works out really well for me when they're kind of new to it as well, because dialect coaches don't have any union to be a part of. We're not part of SAG, we're not part of Teamsters, we're not part of anything. We're just rogue and out here in the wild. So it's sometimes good when people haven't had a lot of exposure to that, because then you can really walk them through, like, well, this is how I can help. This is what would make it easier for me. If we could do this, then that would be the best case scenario. But we can work with any of these things, but it would be great if we could do it in this order to make the actors the most comfortable. Then I'm not going to be in the way of the director or anything. So yeah.
That's cool. You have expanded your social media with your wife, and I'm really excited to talk about that with characters and really like sketches now, which is really, really fun. So before I jump to that, though, I was wondering about your, as a consumer, as a film and television consumer, when
Yep.
you hear and see actors in these pieces, how hard is it, or how often is your ear sort of trained to like, interesting, that maybe it takes you out because you feel like the accent doesn't match, right? Can you talk about that a little bit? And because I'm thinking about actors who go, oh, it's no big deal, I can fake it, I can make it, I can listen to a YouTube tutorial, and why it would be beneficial for them to have a trained coach with them.
Yeah. So I think there's this kind of belief that dialect coaches go around just listening to everybody and everything and be like, are you there? Like, kind of like the accent police. I don't tend to do that too much, but what will sometimes happen is I'm watching something, I'll hear something and be like, I think they're doing an accent. And then like just acknowledge that and then forget about it. And then I'll look on IMDb later and be like, yep, they're from
Yeah.
here, not from there. But I'm able to still kind of be immersed in the before. It doesn't like take me out so much. I'll just like clock it.
Because I'm wondering, like, there's a lot of, in the past couple years, a lot of nominated films, even, and actors, well-known actors who are really getting dinged for their accents, like kind of being trashed in the media for it. And like, sometimes I think like, is it, do they deserve that? Is that something that they didn't really do the work, or is that just us thinking and judging them? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you have a thought on that, but
yeah, I think it's one of these areas that everyone kind of believes they're an expert
yeah.
in. Like, even say, for example, take a random person from England, and then they're watching something set in Boston. It's very easy to be like, oh, that's not what a Boston accent sounds like. Having never been there, maybe not even knowing anyone from there, but just having this idea of what someone from a certain place should sound like. I think we're now getting to a space where we're getting a little bit more accent variety in location on screen. And we just had the holdovers this year. And so Devine, who's up for the Oscar, she's been very vocal about, yes, it's set in Massachusetts, but I looked for the sample of somebody that was from that time period, who was Black, who was from here, because that's not going to be the same sound that you're expecting from just a random person from Massachusetts. And so I like that the conversation is getting that granular. And I think that we are starting to see a bit more inclusivity there.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. It kind of makes me think about, I was listening to the writer of the holdovers talk about the art direction and the design, like, right, so like it's set in the 70s, and so right, and so when you think about like the 70s, the accents might even be different than they are today, obviously, like 50 years later.
That's
so
exactly right.
Yeah, so you got to kind of like adjust to that. So that I like that. I like that conversation. I like even thinking about the design of the times, like the wardrobe and the interiors of like houses, right? Was it
Mhm.
1971, I believe? So it wouldn't be like hard 70s because it's
No,
like
it's
they're
not going to be like flower power, everything's orange. But
yeah.
it's like coming out of the 60s, that slightly more minimal design, but like very natural thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's really kind of a cool nuanced conversation, as you're saying, like it's delicate. It's a part of the art of what you're doing, in dialect and stuff like that. That's cool. Okay, so what I noticed in your updated bio, because it's so fun to have you as a returning guest. I was like, oh, look at this, that's changed. You had a client on Dave. I freaking love that show.
Yes.
Dave Bird.
I got to that was one of the ones where I got to be on set for the filming of it. So that was so much fun. We filmed it like November of 2022, and then it aired last April, I believe. But it was really fun to be there, for sure.
I want to hear, like, as a consumer of art, of TV and film, like your geeking out moments. Like, do you find yourself? How do you navigate that? I mean, we're all human beings, but you got on the show that you're, maybe enjoying and going, okay, I'm actually being hired by this show that I love. Like, talk about that a little bit, because I think we all can be starstruck, and we're all in this business that, this person seems like way up here, but then you have this business relationship and exchange, like, and it's just levels the playing ground, I assume. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I got to work with the guest stars of the episode, so I was kind of a little bit sequestered, but then we would be working it, and then the rest of the cast would come in, and they were very friendly, very nice, like, hi. But yeah, no, it was really fun to be on set and to watch them work, because he really has a full handle on everything there, because it's interesting to see how involved people are, but he'll kind of do something, go watch the playback, think of a new joke, go in and try it out. And so he's very, very hands-on. So it's interesting to see that, because that's not something you often see with actors, because they're not also usually EPs necessarily on the show.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see him flip through those hats so quickly and then go back and try something else and be like, yeah, I think that was it.
and was that a case of the production bringing you on for the guest stars?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, if you don't know the show, it's called Dave, and he also just released his new album, Pinith, Pinith. Super funny. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. I love it. He's got a huge comic, influence in the world, as well as rap and music. It's super cool, which leads me to talk about your acting and things you're doing with your wife, Danielle. I'm just like, what is going on, dude? How many times have you been viral? I mean, I feel like the pandemic, you all just kind of exploded out into you're on TikTok. I mean, you're just like everywhere, you and Danielle. Let's talk about that. How did that work?
It started out really during the pandemic. I'm the cameraman and the props man and the costumer and the editor. So we'll be there. Danielle will be like, oh, I have this idea for a thing. And so I'll start recording something, and then we'll kind of find the easiest way to get there. And then she'd start introducing characters like this one here that went from a bed bug to me suddenly being a cockroach. And I was telling this story to someone the other day, and actually she'd done about 2 or 3 of these bedbug sketches, and then I was in the kitchen and said, oh, Amazon does the delivery here. She was like, oh, that's your costume. I said, what? What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, that's your costume. It's a cockroach costume. I was like,
okay. Freaking A.
Wonderful. And then we kind of wrote one of the things that we're learning is that if something hits, you kind of ride that wave and just until the wheels fall off, sort of thing. And so there was a trending thing at the same time of the song Water, this one right here, exactly. And so this guy did a cover of it, but was doing a lot facially during his recording. And so I then did that. And then Danielle's first holiday movie came out, Candy Cane Lane on Prime with Eddie Murphy. But we went to the premiere, and I was like, that guy looks familiar. And it was the guy that had done the cover of the song. And he came over and was like, hi, Jack. I was like, hi. So it's funny what you get recognized for from just pieces of content like this.
it's really, just to give you both your flowers, it's really encouraging. Obviously, social media can be a racket, and there's so much noise out there, but you can tell you both are bringing joy and love and goodness into the world. Like it's so refreshing, and I'm so happy, when I see things out there, and I think it's fun. Obviously I don't know you super well, but I got to meet you that one time and know your vibe and kind of the work that you do, and then just see how, like, oh my gosh, you're a total entertainer yourself. It's just really cool, and I think it was a cool reminder, to me. And when we do this podcast and I have guests on here, that we're not like monoliths, we're a monolith as whatever we are, like as an actor, as a director, as an accent coach or TV star. It's like we can do multiple things. You can get out of your lane and you can try things. And hearing you say, like, you run it until it runs out. Like if it's hitting, it's hitting. And if it doesn't hit, that's okay too. I'm sure you probably have learned some things along the way with the stories and things you're telling. And I'm wondering about that, like your use of social media, you're getting recognized, right? So just talk about that. Like just any things that you've learned about yourself, social media, how that's grown your brand, or I'm assuming it's getting you clients as well.
Yeah, I think for myself, the like business aspect is always the scariest side for me. And so every now and then I'll be like, okay, no, I have to do something. Let me like just mail out this thing to a bunch of managers. Let me just do that. And so I'll put in that work and then forget about it, or I'll do these sketches and then it comes back. Like I'm currently working with a client on my first horror film ever, which I'm excited about. But they are a British actor that is successful in the US, and they were like, do you do Scottish accents? I was like, yeah. I just had a client on 1923 doing this, and they were like, oh great, I've got this horror film that I'm doing in the autumn. Would you help kind of get me started on that? I was like, yeah, sure. Oh, by the way, how did you find me? And they were like, oh, I think I Googled you, or maybe you were on my list for my managers. I can't remember. And then they pulled up the list and they're like, oh yeah, there you are. And that was from the mail I'd done the previous summer, and just kind of brushed off and be like, well, I didn't hear back, so I'm glad I did. But it turns out people do save stuff like that. And when the time is right and when it's needed, it comes back. And so it's really encouraging to see that, because sometimes it's the things that we don't like to do that if they don't immediately produce fruit, we're like, well, that was stupid. Like, I hate that. But actually getting the validation of, oh, well, yeah, that was a good thing to do is useful sometimes.
I dig that. So what I hear you saying is, the age-old idea about planting seeds and the kind of idea of like the marathon, and it's not a rush. You're building relationships, you're investing into your career, you're putting some out there. You might not see an instant response from it, but you just don't know. Sometimes it's hard, because I definitely live in the space of, you never know. Like, why not go to this event? Why not send that email? You never know. And I'll have my wife saying, like, we can't pay bills on you never know. And I like that. I think too, as creators, sometimes we do a lot of things for free. You're doing this podcast for free. You're coming on this, but the idea and the hope is, maybe this clip helps. And I know I've sent you actors, right? Because I know you, right? And we're connected. And I can go, oh, hey, you need an accent coach? Well, actually, watch these 2 episodes now that I have, and then if you dig him, then follow up, because I have his direct email or whatever. Like, that's the stuff that I really enjoy too, is going down the line. Now we're connected, and I'm thinking someday I would love to do an in-person workshop. Someday I would love to have you be a part of BraveMaker up here in the Bay. So those are the things that gets me excited too. And I think for all of our listeners and watchers, it's like, it could be so overwhelming with social media and our branding and stuff, but maybe it's like little bite-sized chunks of, what this month can I do 5 things? Can I do something that I put out there that I might not ever see any reward for, but it could come back to me in some way? That's kind of cool. Do you have a mailing list that you put out on a regular thing, like with your clients? And how does that all work just from a business side too for you?
Yeah, so I have kind of a mailing list. It's really kind of once a quarter type thing. I was thinking when I started, like, oh, I'll do a weekly thing, but it wasn't really my skill set, and so it became more of a stress than like a like something that was positive and bringing back the return. So I think it's good to find the balance between what is actually needed, what could you do a little bit more, and what is too much that is going to inhibit the growth as well.
And you've got I was gonna say, and you've also, you know, got a relationship and a marriage to somebody who's a creative person too. And I always like to hear from people who are in the industry partnered, the balance, the juggle you were saying, and maybe you want to share here up to you, like your schedule right now. You're kind of flying all over because you've got your work and you're hanging out with your wife and you're supporting her. What does that look like in a relationship with someone else in the industry?
Yeah, I think it goes in kind of waves and seasons. So right now, Danielle's shooting season 3 of Ghosts, which is exciting. It's up in Montreal, and I usually go with her because most of my work is remote like this, and so I can just be there. So I was there for a few weeks. I then flew back to LA because I was doing a workshop at a theater here. I then flew to Georgia for 3 days because I was doing a conference. I then flew back here and I'm teaching at CalArts this week. I then fly to New York on Sunday to do a press thing. I then go back to Montreal for a week. I then come back to LA to teach again at CalArts. I then go back to Montreal to move out. So sometimes it can be absolutely insane like this. And sometimes I'm just in one place the whole time, or either in Montreal with Danielle or we're both here in LA. It changes. But right now is one of those, everything is moving at all points all the time sort of thing. Yeah.
So episode 225, my guest is Jack Wallace. You can find him at Accent Coach Jack on the socials, and he's got tons of great videos, and you occasionally will do these accent tips for free on your socials, which is really, really cool, and tons of fun sketches with his wife Danielle, an actress. So would you consider yourself a writer as well? Are you collaborating with Danielle, like you're writing, you're coming up with these things, you know, you're acting, like talk about that a little bit, like you're doing a lot of creativity?
Yeah, I've been kind of stepping into that a bit more. About the start of 2023, I did a pilot writing like workshop and then wrote 2 pilots. I'm now part of a writing group that meets every 2 weeks. So yeah, I could definitely feel like that's a skill that I'm developing and enjoying. And when it comes to the sketches, we kind of co-write them and co-edit them as well.
Are you editing on like Premiere and stuff, or are you kind of just doing it all from your phone?
It depends how fast we want to get. Like, there are definitely some, because Danielle's now at the stage where she's also doing content for brands that are paid partnerships. Those ones we kind of get slightly better lighting. I do it on Premiere Pro, for like the quick ones to send out is all through iMovie, really.
Yeah, it's great. I feel like I commented on one of her posts, and I'm forgetting which one it is. I feel as if it was, did she parlay the bed bug thing into a cleaner?
Into a bug spray. Yeah,
bug
exactly.
Spray.
Yeah, Zevo.
I mean, yeah, I'm getting chills right now because I remember seeing that and going, like, how perfect and brilliant, right?
And that was very intentional. Like, she sought that out.
Oh, really?
Danielle's very clever at like the business aspect of that. So she was like, these are going great. What is tangential to this that I can reach out to see if they would be open?
Dude, that is incredible. And obviously you have to work to get to that place, but I think there is something for all of us at every level is going, okay, what am I good at? You know, how could I bring value to someone else? And just ask. Why not? Just ask. I have a friend, actually a student in our acting academy, who kind of encouraged me and blew my mind because he's like, I want to get into voiceover. He's got no credits, nothing, but he started calling up local businesses in our area, and he said, could I do your outgoing voicemail message?
Yeah.
And like, how cool. Like, just, you never know how you might get to be a paid creator in whatever way that looks like. I really dig that. That's so cool. So you also, you know, the interesting thing too is you have shared a lot of your personal story on your social media with you and your wife, particularly regarding your wedding and what went down when you first were doing, So for those who don't know, I mean, I would love you just to kind of share, because that also went viral too. And I think you ended up in People magazine because of it. I mean,
yeah, sometimes some things hit, which is great.
Wow.
But yeah, we had a very interesting actual wedding experience. We've now been married for about 10 and a half years. But when we first got married, it was the night before. I was out with my groom's people at the Cheesecake Factory, just enjoying a last meal.
Enjoying a huge menu of a variety of foods.
Exactly. Taking the whole night just to read the menu. And then I got a call like, oh, you have to come back right now. Something's happening. And I was like, oh, okay. And it turns out that Danielle's mom had a stroke at 9 p.m. the night before our wedding. And so she was rushed into hospital, and the next day we'd already invited like 200 people from all over the world to come to the wedding, but she was unable to go there, so we did the actual ceremony in the ICU unit in the hospital. And so her mom was able to give her away. We did our vows with just like 5 or 6 people, and then we went on to the church to do the big thing with the rest of everyone and have the reception. But her mom never actually got to walk her down the aisle. So last year, as like a way to mark 10 years and a way to kind of have a little bit of a do-over, we did a vow renewal, and her mom was finally able to walk her down the aisle. So it was really nice.
So, I mean, cue heartstrings, right? Like heart melting.
It was very Grey's Anatomy.
Honestly, yeah, like super. I mean, I'm sure you all are going to take this and make it into something, I'm sure, again, sometime, but really cool. But what I took away from that was we all talk about social media. Like, how much do I share? Is there an overshare? And when things start to hit, I think that, to me, and this is what I took away from it, is people do. They want happy endings. They do want to hear how people conquer their obstacles. Every good story has conflict, right? Every story we write, there's an inciting incident, something goes wrong, our protagonist has to go through trials and tribulations. And what I took away from that was like, wow, like people were leaning into it, because it was like, what, the night before the stroke, in the hospital, the tears, the emotions. And I've heard your wife share as well. And I think that got people, and I'm seeing your all audience build up because of that. So it just is a cool reminder to me that yes, we can post our wins and look at, I booked this gig, or I'm on set, but it's also really important to share the challenges to whatever you feel comfortable doing. Like, we all have our boundaries and privacy. So on top of that, my other question is, how are you all processing this being recognized, or going to a show or whatever, going, hey, you're the person who is the bed bug and the cockroach? I mean, how does that play out for you as a human being who maybe didn't have that kind of recognition before?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it also comes at a time when the show that Danielle's on is also boosting in popularity. So she was on kind of as a guest star for Young Sheldon for several years, and so every so often they'd be like, "Oh, is that the math teacher?" And then it's supposed to be like, "Oh, it's that one from Ghost. You look like that person from Ghost." It's just like, well, yeah, I do. But it's interesting now because she's got that kind of recognition, but when we go to places, it's often more from her social media than the TV shows that she's on that she is recognized. And then they see me and they're like, oh, and then you're the husband, right? It's all kind of starting to come together, but I think it was useful to have the slight pre-exposure with the other shows first, so less of an why do they know who I am sort of thing, but it's like yeah, this is nice. Okay,
yeah, that's cool. Well, I have a feeling it might get more challenging in your all future as your careers grow and blossom. So good, enjoy where it is right now. It seems manageable, which is cool. And I'm watching how you all handle it. It's cool. And I've been in these spaces for some time. And I think we can always think the grass is greener, right? Like, I wish I can get there, but it's really hard to go, okay, how do I appreciate what I have right now? And there's a beautiful success that you all have. So congrats to both of you and to your wife. And I'm a big fan of Ghost too. It's a show I can watch with my kids. I have 3 kids who are all teenagers, and it's a really cool there's not a lot of those things out there in the world. So that's really fun to be able to have that. Oh, that's great. Anything else you want to say, just as I think about our audience? Many of them are in this place of wanting to move things forward and, being a self-generative person to create and to make. I hear you saying just take some chances, kind of see what kicks or what hits or not. But you also, from what I take, you knew what you were good at, what you started at, right? You knew what kind of value you could bring to people. And in starting in a specific lane and then broadening it, do you have any other thoughts about that as creative people are
I think
navigating this?
Sometimes there's one thing that it's easy to be like, oh yeah, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at. Like for me, I went to school for voice in general, so I knew that I had this specialist skill when it came to accents, but I didn't necessarily know that I was good with technology or editing until I was having to like edit 10 things in a week, and then I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Give me like 10 minutes and I'll put it together. And then someone else would be like, oh, that takes me like 3 hours to do. And so sometimes it's finding other people and see where you use them as a temperature check to find out what is actually a skill of yours and what is just kind of more common sense. Because sometimes skills just seem common sense to us because they're like, yeah, I can do that. This is easy. But then you come up against somebody that appreciates what you've done because it's not part of their skill set. And then you're like, oh, okay, sure. I guess this is a skill of mine. So yeah, don't shy away from like collaborating on projects as well, because you'll level up.
I hear you saying too, so being intentional about looking for feedback, like the constructive feedback and the affirmative feedback, like, hey, like ask it, you have to have a trusted friend, right? Like a trusted person or person. Like, what do you think I'm good at? Like, be honest with me, like, am I living in my skills and passions and created wiring, or do you see me doing things that maybe I'm running the hamster wheel that I should let go? Because it's hard sometimes as a creative person to go, I shouldn't be doing this stuff over here because it's not benefiting me. My wife and I often have the conversation about like, how much time do you put into this one activity that you're not getting paid for? And I'm like, well, if I really love it, I could do it as much as I want, really, because it's so exciting, but if it could end up being a revenue igniter, then maybe I should put more time in it. And so that's sometimes the balance too, is how do I navigate figuring out what can get revenue in, where can I get a sponsor, where can I get someone to pay me to do this? That's often a challenging thing I think we as creatives have.
Yeah, and sometimes, not for everybody, but there can be like a guilt aspect of, oh, but this is art, so
yeah.
Which I'm not for that mindset anymore.
Tell me about that, because before we go into our brave phase, you were saying off podcast about the strike, and all of us, 2 different strikes, writers and actors, and it impeded some of our ability to earn money. But yeah, talk about that. Like, I would love to hear your art and commerce and anything you want to share about that. That's actually interesting.
Yeah, I feel like there is, especially in America, a glorification of the struggle. And so that in order to be a good artist, or in order to really or the art to like be meaningful or some way, it has to come at a price, or you have to sacrifice for it. But I don't know that I fully agree with that as a mindset. I feel like you can be compensated and do good work at the same time. They could exist in the same place, and it doesn't negate the integrity of what you're putting out there.
Do you think there's the glorified torture artist thing, like in the industry where you almost feel like I have to, what is it called, flog,
yeah, like self-flagellate.
Right, that's it. Yeah, if I'm not suffering, am I really an artist? Yeah, that's interesting. I was just talking to somebody today about joy, like this is like, we're living our dreams, right? Like, this is what we all dreamed about. And it doesn't mean it shouldn't always be easy. I mean, it's work, right? We need rest from it too.
Yeah.
But there is something to say about the joy of it and loving it. And, that's why I hope I'm working with good people, and I hope I am good people, when I'm working with people, right? I don't want to be the jerk, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, this is so great, Jack. Thank you so much. I love your just vibe and who you are, and it's so cool to have you back on the podcast. And I definitely, my mind is always stirring around. Our film festival is during your birthday, so if you want to come and spend some birthday days in the Bay Area, we can chat about that. That would be kind of fun.
Amazing.
All right. Well, we're not done. It's time for our favorite things of the week.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
All right, my favorite thing of the week. Well, it's so fun. Today I got to talk to two creative people and do two podcasts. My favorite thing of the week is going to be my previous person I was chatting with, Belgica Rodriguez, is a YouTuber and actor in the Bay Area in Los Angeles. And she just creates so much educational content. So you can listen to all of her information of how she teaches actors how to self-tape, and she does like lighting tutorials, and she talks about actors' finances and all this really cool stuff on her YouTube page, Belgica Rodriguez, on Instagram .professional. Just check her out because she's putting out some free information to actors. And if you are an aspiring actor, if you are a newer actor, if you're like, I don't know how to get an agent, I don't know how to submit myself to self-tapes, I don't know set etiquette, I don't know how to network or go to a film festival, she is doing it all on her YouTube page and Instagram. So that is my favorite thing of the week. Check out Belgica Rodriguez. What do you have, Jack? What's your favorite thing of the week?
So I'm a little late to this, but I watched it all this week. So I watched the new Percy Jackson on Disney Plus, and I loved that. So when the film came out, I was like just a little too old for where it was pitching, but not really old enough to then lean into it. For this one, I feel like I'm now at the stage where I can just lean into the fact, like, yes, this is a children's show, and this has been great. I watched all episodes like on Monday and Tuesday night, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Are you a reader of the book, right? Originally, right? So were you a fan of the book?
I haven't read the book, but I could pretend to the people online that I did. I just like Greek mythology.
I love that. And I'm totally with you. My kids was like, Dad, you never read any fiction. I was like, I write fiction. I act fiction. I watch fiction. I don't have time to read books. So I'm with you. No shame. No shame in that game. Awesome. So go watch Percy Jackson. That's on Disney Plus. Don't go away, Jack. Everybody else, thank you so much for being a part of the BraveMaker community. This is our 225th episode, and I absolutely love doing this, getting to meet cool people like Jack from all over the world. A reminder, we're a nonprofit organization that hosts film screenings, acting classes, screenwriting workshops. Every single month we have something. We just had a huge mixer last night all over the Bay Area. We have a film screening on March 9th of a local feature documentary film about the housing crisis in the Bay. I am just really proud of the work that we're doing. If you can and want to support the work that we're doing, you can become a donor. It's all tax deductible. One time every month, $5, $10, $20, however many you want to give. You can go to bravemaker.com/donate to become a patron today, or use your phone and just text the word BraveMaker to 44321. And every week I need to thank our producer, Amy Cohen, our intern, Jessica Cohen, who will cut up clips from this episode and put it out on social media and tag Jack and others of our guests. Please follow our guests, thank them, watch them, connect with them. You never know where these connections might lead. And to our social media manager, Carrie Alley, and our podcast editor, Barnell Amos, I say thank you. Jack, awesome. People can find you at Accent Coach Jack on all the places. Get into it. Get into the bed bugs and cockroaches and all the other fun things. And actors, if you ever need someone to make sure that dialect is just right, you know where to go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack. I appreciate you and wish you and Danielle the best. And let's see if we can get you out to the Bay at some point in the future to do something.
I look forward to it. I'm gonna hop on that plane or car.
Awesome. All right. Well, good luck with all your tours and press and conferences and Cal Arts.
Thank you.
Woo-woo. Super exciting. We'll see you soon, Jack. Thanks so much. Everybody else, have a great day and week. Brave stories change the world, and you are the story. We'll see you soon, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at BraveMaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.